Hey y'all, it's Bridgie from Bougie Texas Barbecue, and it's officially the holiday season. I'm going to show you how to trim a beef tenderloin that'll make it worth every single dollar that you pay. Let's get into it. Okay friends, so take this video as a sign to go ahead and buy that beef tenderloin roast. This video is going to be beginner friendly. I am not a butcher or was ever trained by a butcher. I consider myself more of a backyard barbecue boss. With that being said, if I can do it, you can definitely do it. While this cut can look a little bit intimidating as a roast, once you finish watching this video, I'm going to cover the basics, and I promise as you're trimming into it, it will look less intimidating. The most hardest part of this cut is going to be the silver skin, because you don't want to cut too much into that meat because you want to eat that. So with this specific cut, it has this little chain link that you can pretty much separate with your hands. While the chain has a lot of connective tissue and fat, it's not a total waste. What we're going to do is separate it so we can pretty much form this roast, and I'll show you a little later on into the video what you can do with it. Don't worry too much about shaping at this point, you just want to remove it from the main roast. And you can see where it separates from the chain and the main roast. Use that as your guide to trim it off. And of course, a really sharp boning knife will definitely make this process a lot easier. But once it's separated, you can see there's still a good amount of meat on this chain. So I'm just gonna roll it up and set it to the side, and we'll get into that a little later. I do recommend having a second cutting board or even a bowl to put your trimmings to the side so it's not in your way during the cutting process. Once the chain is removed, the second thing I like to do is cut the tail end off. There are a variety of things that you can actually do with this tail. You can grill it for a mid-smoke snack, you can smoke it, or what I'm gonna do to save some money is I'm gonna slice it into stir fry until it gets to the thicker part of the tail. Once I reach the thicker part, I'm actually gonna cube it up, and you can use that again for maybe some steak bites, for example, or you can even use it as stew meat. It's 100% up to you. Either way, I'm gonna set both of these to the side, and at this point I know it doesn't look like a lot of meat, but I promise the more we get into this trim, you will see how much of that meat will accumulate. With the first two steps out of the way, you can already see how much more this roast is starting to shape. At this point, it's up to you whether you want center cut fillets or if you want to keep the center intact and make smaller fillets and medallions. It's 100% up to you. I'm going to keep the center cut as is, and I'm going to cut up some medallions and some smaller fillets just to really get all of this beef tenderloin used and make it worth every single dollar that I paid. So let's get into step 3, removing the silver skin. There's a lot of connective tissue on the top that you can either cut off or remove with your hand that will really expose the silver skin. Once that silver skin is exposed, you're just going to glide and insert your knife gently underneath that silver skin. Make sure you do not go too deep into the meat and just remove it. This step does require a little bit more patience, but if you're new or just haven't trimmed one before, what I do recommend is allowing your roast to get partially frozen. That way it's a little bit more stiffer when trimming. This has helped me so much during my trimming journey, I guess I can say. So before trimming, let it sit in your freezer for 30 to 40 minutes. Don't let it get completely frozen, but this will definitely help you out, I promise. Jumping right into step 4 is removing the side pieces that are right next to the center cut, which is the best cut of this beef roast. What you want to do with them is totally up to you. You can slice them thin and add them to your stir fry pile. You can cube them up and use it for stew meat. I decided to just slice them into 2-inch cut fillets, and honestly, I'm gonna wrap them in bacon and make a filet mignon. Technically, it's not a center cut, but it's still gonna taste really good. And that's pretty much it on how you trim this roast down. We just have to pretty much shape it, get these last little uneven pieces off, and that's it, guys. While I finish shaping this center cut, I'll give y'all a few ideas. As I already mentioned, with the smaller medallions and fillets, I'm going to do a filet mignon. With the Cuba meat, I'm actually going to make an appetizer, kind of like a steak bite crostini with bruschetta on top. That's going to be so good and definitely a showstopper if you have like a Friendsgiving or if you just have family coming over. For the stir fry, I'm going to do something untraditional. I'm going to do an untraditional Philly cheesesteak since they're sliced so thin, and make Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. Again, another great appetizer idea, and it will be super rich, super crowd pleasing, and great if you're entertaining for this holiday season. Now for the chain link, there's going to be a thinner side and a thicker side. Now, as long as there's not too much connective tissue and silver skin, you can pretty much just slice it up. This one didn't have too much, but I have had tenderloin roast that had that silver skin still attached. So you really just have to kind of trim it down, look underneath that fat that's not going to render out, and make sure there's no thick cuts of silver skin, because I promise it is not going to be a good bite if you have that silver skin still on. And if you really want to save your money, you will separate the fat from the silver skin and either freeze it or render it down for beef tallow, which I have full intentions of doing. Any type of beef that I trim down, I save the fat, I freeze it immediately, and then when I need beef tallow, I will pull it out of the freezer, throw it into a crock pot, and do everything I need to do to make beef tallow. Alright guys, well that pretty much wraps up this video. Thank y'all so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for part 2 and 3, where I show y'all how I make the filet mignon and how I cook the center cut. So make sure you stay tuned. Till next time, guys.